Hello, this is Chris Griffith. I'm on my commute on an electric bike, an Ashiro electric bike. I live in Sydney, Australia, and we're going to do about a 4-kilometre commute from here to my workplace, which is the Australian newspaper, in Surrey Hills on the edge of Sydney's CBD, Central Business District. The other reason I want to do this video is just to try out the GoPro Max with its 360-degree camera, because one of the things you can do, and you'll be seeing this by the time I process this, is you can turn a 360-degree video into a normal video, and I can post-process, pan in all these different types of effects. So I can, for example, pan around from you seeing me to seeing the road in front, and you can even see the handlebars. So I can probably give you a bit of a tutorial on how I actually use this bike, how I change the gears, etc., etc., provided you can see all of that. So anyway, we're off. This is an electric bike. It uses 7 gears. It's got a hub motor on the back. That means I still have to use the gears in the same way that you use the gear on a manual bike, because this motor depends on having a decent ratio so that it's not overwhelmed by the actual force that it has to deal with. So if you look on the right here, look down at the handlebars, and I'll give you a bit of a tour of what we have here. Coming from the left, you can see the brake. I'm not sure how much of this actually appears because I've got the camera on the handlebars, but you might be able to see the display, which shows the speed I'm going at. You can see there the battery level maybe, and you can see the odometer reading as well. That number 5 there, if it's visible, is the level of assistance that I'm taking from the electric motor. So I've decided to rev it up for this event to 5, which is maximum assistance. There are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can ride it as a manual bike if you want to. On the right is the important part of the gears. Now, I've just actually cranked it down to 1, and you do that while the bike is moving. You really only change the gears when the bike is moving, and the reason I crank it down to 1 before I get to any intersection is because it's hard to start off in a high gear for the same reason. The bike will go really slowly and you're just kind of a bit exposed on the intersections going across the road. We have lovely shady trees, which is part of this part of Sydney. I mean, you see this in Australian cities, but these trees are fantastic and makes it really pleasant. Now you can probably hear cockatoos too, all that squawking noise. Now if you don't know about cockatoos in the wild, they get around in pretty large groups. So when you see one cockatoo, you're probably likely to see about 70. And if some fly off, they all fly off. So they all kind of keep together. So when you hear a cockatoo and you look up, you'll often see dozens of birds in the trees. Anyway, we've got a beautiful park here on the right rather. There's a big rail network in Sydney. We have a pretty large network, but they're expanding with another set of underground stations, and this will be called Waterloo Station. You can see maybe some of the old photographs on the fence here, which is a pretty common thing to put on these construction sites. We've got a bit of roadworks on the right as well. Now this area is the start of Redfern, an inner precinct or suburb of Sydney, which has a lot of public housing. There's a lot of poor people, Indigenous people, elderly people who live in Redfern, and the public housing is at least, you know, some decent or okay housing for them to live in. You'll see that on the right as we go through here. Now all the pans I'm doing after I made this video. It's all done post-processing. Now just to make things interesting, we've got here a rubbish or trash truck, whatever you like to call it. And the traffic here is, I guess, having to sort itself out. So I'm going to go up here, change gears down. Anyway, we're getting along, we're motoring along pretty nicely now through Redfern. If you look ahead, you'll see a number of triangles on the path in front. Now that's a magnetic induction coil, and when you put your bike on that, though it wasn't done this time, when you put your bike on that, it actually causes you to get a green light with the bike. So I'm going to wait here until we get that green light. These electric bikes, by the way, they can assist you up to about 25 kilometers an hour. So the motor will kick in when I pedal, and it'll keep helping while I continue to pedal. If I stop pedaling, the motor cuts out, if I get to 25 kilometers an hour, it'll cut out also. And that's generally the regulated way that these electric bikes work. So we're now coming to Cleveland Street. We're not very far from the city now. We're going to go through a big park here, Prince Albert Park, and it's got a very interesting history. This park was where I believe the first Australian film was actually shot, and that was shot in the 1890s. It was basically an entertainer with a group of people around him. So what I'm going to do is I go up to this intersection up here and just cross on the lights, just walk across there. It's the safest way, and then proceed to work, which is just a few hundred meters. So you'll see all that, and this is what I do every day. I've been doing this commute on this bike for the last 18 months or so. Our newspaper building coming down here is on the right, you can see.